Hi, I'm Mina Malik Hussain and you're watching The Coffee Table. And you know that we're big nerds here at The Coffee Table. So because this is wedding season and we don't talk to you guys about clothes and how to do your hair and all of that, we're going to talk to you today about the nikah nama and what goes in it and why you should be aware of what's happening with your nikah nama. I'm being facetious, but it's a very serious thing. And joining me here today on set are two wonderful women, experts on the subject, who are going to tell us all about nikah namas and demystify it. And it's actually a very serious and really important thing, as you will soon find out. So joining me today on set is Hooria Hayat Khan, who is a lawyer and a women's rights expert, and Hana Zahir, who is a project manager at the Center for Economic Research in Pakistan, which is also known as CERP. Very, very important. Hi, guys. Welcome to the set.
Thanks for having us.
Now that I've set you up as these very serious and somber people.
Now, when we don't say anything intellectual, Hooria, what's going to happen to us?
You'll be booted off. Yeah, we'll take away your coffee and be like, no, you're very serious. You're very serious. So, Hooria, you are a lawyer.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot of work with women's rights. So, why is it so important to know what's in your nikah nama?
You see, the nikah nama is important because in Islamic law, the idea of a nikah is not, unlike other religions, it's not a sacrament. It's in the nature of a contract. So when two parties sit down and they try to come up with terms that are going to be acceptable to them, it is important to record that in a document, which then you can later refer to because it's a public document. It's obviously also admissible as evidence in court.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So then Islam doesn't take this kind of romantic view of marriage where it's like, oh, romance, marriage, love. What, I'm sure those things are all fine, and I'm sure people do that. But as far as like Islamic family law goes, the nikah nama, it's a legal contract. It's a very sensible thing.
Yeah.
That here are two people who are entering into this partnership, and these are the parameters in which we will operate.
Exactly.
And everyone's parameters are different.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, nobody hopefully has problems with romance.
Yeah.
But
you know, great kids.
But the law actually takes a very kind of pragmatic, realistic approach to it. I mean, you know, the idea being that the parties themselves get to hammer out whatever terms are acceptable to them.
Okay.
And so,
and actually, as it holds, that the nikah nama actually gives a lot of rights to women also. To safeguard herself within the parameters of the marriage. Certain financial and legal conditions also.
Absolutely. That's absolutely
like what?
right.
Because we hear a lot about this in general conversation that, oh, well, you know, the women have lots of rights, but somehow, at least as to, like, I'm a layperson. So I'm just like, well, you know, you can ask for financial support and there's divorce, of course.
Yes.
But like, you can put anything in a nikah nama, can't you?
Yeah, there is a column for special conditions in which Hooria can give a few examples of contracts that she's seen.
Yeah, so I mean,
give us examples, Hooria.
So people can be quite inventive and creative with what they put into a nikah nama. So there have been cases where women have put in special conditions like, I want to keep working. Or I want to keep studying. Or I will not have children at least for X years into the marriage, or I will not be stopped from doing X, or I will be allowed to do Y. And because it's a contract, it can be enforced in court.
Ooh, that's so exciting, because this is, I think, what they do abroad is where you have a civil marriage, but then you have a prenup.
Yeah, exactly.
So the nikah nama is like a nifty combination of two.
Yeah. I mean, it really, cool. Because the columns in themselves have the room for you to be creative enough to put whatever you want.
And it's also kind of, and maybe we can talk about this in more detail later on, but it's kind of sad to me that you have to actually write it down in a legal document. You know, things like, I want to keep working.
But what better way to safeguard your rights?
This is true.
You know, I mean, you write it down, it's right there in black and white.
Everyone
Both parties have agreed to it.
There are witnesses, they're like,
signed it.
The groom has signed it, most importantly. So if he ever backs out on his word, that's a document you can use in court.
Exactly.
To sort of get your way.
And also just be like, well,
yes, you agreed to it at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not like, oh, we just talked about this, you know, and now I've changed my mind now that, you know, you're actually in my house.
Yeah, it's like, or be like, well, I never said that.
Excuse me. I didn't remember having that conversation.
You don't gaslight me like this.
It's really cool that we're talking about that, because now, in fact, there are some nikah khwans and nikah registrars who will make the boy, I mean, if the boy decides to give the delegated right of divorce to the woman, they will actually make him put in an extra signature in front of that column. So that he doesn't back out of it. Because there are so many times when they'll go to court and say, this wasn't filled out,
Yeah,
I think the girl side filled it out later.
Yeah.
You know, and then it becomes a problem of who's right, who's wrong. You know, you have to bring in evidence to show, nahi bhai, this was, you know, signed at the time. So it's really like, again, it's a really creative way around the problem. You make the groom put in just one extra signature in front of that column.
To be like, you saw that.
Yeah, and you signed it.
And this is
you signed it. If you didn't read it, that's your problem.
I love that we're being so like about it.
Yeah.
But it's actually really serious. And Hana, tell me, you're working with CERP on this, but CERP also has a lot of partners, and there's a lot of people who are sort of joining forces to sort of create more awareness about the nikah nama.
I mean, like the initiative,
to make the process more streamlined.
Yes. So CERP is basically working with the government of Punjab on this intervention. So the initiative was taken by the government of Punjab to train all the nikah registrars in Punjab. So far, they've done it in Punjab. Basically, what CERP is doing is that we're doing an impact evaluation of this intervention to see, so an impact evaluation sort of helps you judge how the outcomes happened.
Okay.
It's more rigorous. It can hold up to sort of international exposure. And it can show that, you know, what sort of impact it have, how should we scale it up, you know, what are the beneficiaries, who are not the beneficiaries, you know, what are sort of local conditions that could hinder you, and maybe potentially then the federal government could pick this up and take this into other provinces, which would be great.
So right now, this project is centered on Punjab, right?
Yeah, it's centered on Punjab.
And you're working with the Commission of Status of Women.
Yes, the Punjab Commission on the Status of Women.
I'm like, consult my little chit here.
The Punjab Commission on the Status of Women actually falls under the Women's Development Department.
Okay.
So the Women's Development Department, Punjab Commission on the Status of Women, and local government officials basically are working on this, because nikah registrars are actually government officials.
Oh,
and they're registered with their own union councils within each tehsil and within each district.
Right.
So in a way, the government is sort of training their own officials to understand the rules and regulations forming the nikah nama and how they should better fill it out. And they also introduced a whole package of amendments in which they've put the burden on the government officials now, the nikah registrars, to check that the nikah nama is being properly filled. And now a nikah registrar can actually be fined or given jail time if they don't comply with the rules and regulations, which Hooria can explain a bit more about, because she knows the legalities of those.
Tell us about the legality.
So in 2015, the government of Punjab introduced an amendment which says, so you see how, I mean, I don't know about us. there has been this kind of practice where people will cross out columns.
Yes, yes.
Which is very confusing, because tomorrow if you go to court, the answer is neither yes nor or no, right? Somebody's just crossed out a column and you don't know what the legal status of that particular sort of provision then is. So in 2015, there was an amendment that was introduced in Punjab. Hopefully other provinces will replicate it. And the nikah registrar or whomever's filling out the form is now under a legal obligation to give an answer for each of the questions in the nikah nama.
It has to be yes or no.
Yeah.
And it can't just be a cross, which is like maybe.
Or not applicable or something like that.
Yeah,
so you can't do not applicable.
Yeah, so you either have to like write no or yes.
Yeah.
And this is important because either a nikah registrar fills out your nikah nama or someone in your family fills out the nikah nama. So this is not just on registrars. This is on anybody who's in a position to fill out a nikah nama.
The responsibility has been put on the registrar that when he goes, he should check it.
Exactly.
That it's not being crossed out. And if it's crossed out, he should tell the family not to do that.
Yeah.
So that's the responsibility.
So now registrars have a lot more power as well, and or at least hopefully more authority.
I mean, like it's more of like liability. Or providing information to the families that, you know, this is wrong and we could all go to jail for this, and giving advice and counseling. But I don't think you can hold them responsible. At the end of the day, they're just recording what the family's wishes are. Like if a family decides that we don't want to give our daughter or give the girl a delegated right to divorce, there's not much he can say that, you know, it's good, you should do it. And I mean, like later we can also discuss the reasons why it's good to do that.
Yeah.
But it's very good to do that.
Always.
But
at the end of the day, he has to do what the wishes of the families are.
But if he's there to record it accurately, then can a nikah registrar also then report this?
He can't report about someone not giving the bride delegated right to divorce. Wow. But he can report if the girl is underage, if he feels like it's a forced marriage. Yeah. And by forced marriage, I don't mean that they're kidnapping the girl and he's shadily in the middle of the night filling out a nikah nama.
Someone pushes you and you're like, and they're like, oh, yes.
Yeah, you know, whether
the
girl seems hesitant or, you know, like they're not allowing him to sort of see the girl or the bride or meet her. Then under those circumstances, he can feel like, oh, I feel like there's something wrong. And I don't know if I want to perform this nikah. That he can full well do and then report them to the union council.
Yeah, because those are illegal things.
Those are illegal things. And under such circumstances, the nikah registrar can also be taken to court. For those in those particular cases, he can be named as an accessory to the fact.
Oh, you see, the nikah registrar is a public servant, right? Being a public servant means there are certain things that you must do. And there are judgments that have been given by superior courts which say that the nikah registrar's job is not to just sit there and just be a kind of like a passive observer, right?
Well, it's not my problem. I'm just here as the official.
Yeah, they're just giving me money to do this.
I'm just doing my job.
You see, the thing is that within the nikah nama, there are so many other things that originate out of it. So rights of inheritance, maintenance, dower. I mean, you know, there's so much else that comes out of a nikah nama.
It's incredibly complex.
It is.
We're going to take a very quick break and then come back to unpack more complexities. Stay with us. Hi, welcome back to the coffee table. We're demystifying the nikah nama and telling you all the things that you should know, bride or groom, about your legal rights in an Islamic marriage. Or nikah registrar.
Who hasn't been trained? Who is in one of the districts who hasn't been trained yet.
It's true, but you know, I find it quite shocking that up to 90%, I believe, of nikah registrars were not trained.
They had not attended any training of any kind.
And that's their job. Like, how do they know how to do their job if they haven't been trained to do it?
Well, the intervention is basic that the government of Punjab started was basically for this reason when in 2015 these amendments were introduced, which basically put the burden on the nikah registrar to sort of inform them about it so that later on down the line, if they're punished, they can't say that, oh, we didn't know anything about this. So it was a one-day training in which they talked a lot about the proper filling out of the nikah nama and what each section sort of means and what the benefits to women and men can be of properly filling out each section, but also about the rules and regulations and whether if they see anything suspicious, report it.
And also the things that are illegal, like the minimum age for marriage is 16?
For girls,
for girls.
And 18 for boys.
So even if, and I'm sure there's a lot of cultural baggage here as well, where nikah khwan might personally not think it's such a big deal.
No, actually,
but it's illegal.
Actually, a lot of the nikah registrars we spoke to, they were insisting that we should try and get the minimum age raised to 18 for girls.
Excellent.
Because they were saying that at 18, everyone has a CNIC. Before that is a bay form. You know, like you go to someone's house and you're like, I want to see their bay form. They're like, we never made it, we don't have it right now, we can't find it. But like in the nikah nama, there's actually a section where you have to fill in the CNIC of the bride and the CNIC of the groom. So then they say we can demand to see it. But with the bay form, they feel like they don't have that sort of leverage that they can do something about it.
And nikah ceremonies, like, it's such a social thing also, where you're in a position where the nikah registrar can't be like, well, I'm not doing this if there's no bay form. He's supposed to. But I can understand how it would be a really fraught situation. You know?
I mean, like, there's so many people there. Everyone's dressed up. Everyone wants to get married.
Who are you? Everyone has their pen and they're like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
And, you know,
who are you to put a damper on the festivities of the biryani?
Well, there's also, I mean, you know, you have an entire cultural context at play. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of the times, and nikah registrars encourage people to kind of fill out their forms from before the ceremony, so that, you know, at the last minute, there's no kind of back and forth on things like, well, are you giving the delegated right? How much should the meher be? What should all of this look like?
But what does it mean, a delegated right of divorce? What does that mean?
So, under the law, the husband has the right to pronounce talaq on his wife, right? But in the nikah nama, there is actually a column which allows him to delegate that right of his to his wife.
Oh, which means that she can also pronounce
talaq
on
But that
on his
doesn't take
behalf.
away from his right to
Obviously,
divorce.
of course.
Very
Yeah.
important.
Very
Yeah.
important. A lot of
Delegating
people
it.
think that,
Feel that,
that if they give a woman a delegated right to divorce, that takes away the man's right to divorce her. But it's just another exit strategy from
the marriage.
From the marriage.
Exactly, right?
Okay.
It's just so it's a right which is now being shared by both parties. The husband obviously can't extinguish his own right by delegating it to his wife.
Okay.
So the right exists for both parties. And then the nikah nama will ask you things like, well, you know, are you attaching any conditions to this delegated right? Ideally, there should be no conditions.
No, don't do that. It's not nice.
But you know, people will attach conditions.
Like what?
Obviously. So conditions is tricky, right? Because
I mean, like the common conditions that we have seen in nikah nama is that she has to return her jewelry.
Okay.
Like she has to give their things back. If she got any land at the time of the marriage, she has to return that to the
Gifts
group.
have to be returned.
Gifts have to be returned. Jewelry has to be returned. It basically the sort of things we've seen in the actual nikah namas that we've studied are mostly financial conditions.
Okay.
That they want their things returned.
Yeah. Okay.
But you see, like I said, that is a little bit tricky because bridal gifts under the law don't have to be returned. So
And
sometimes,
also, some people might say that you shouldn't be giving gifts at all.
fair enough.
Because,
I mean,
you know,
absolutely,
like,
that's another way of looking at
dowries
it.
shouldn't be happening in any case.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
But that's a whole separate
That's
argument.
another show.
That's another show. Yeah.
We will come to that. Exactly. Part 2 of weddings in Pakistan.
But sometimes conditions will be like, I mean, they have no meaning, right? Because they're worded so vaguely that it actually takes away from the right itself. So, for example, there was this one case where the condition was that I'm delegating the right to divorce, but it can only be used with the consent of her elders.
Yeah,
I mean,
Like she has to take
practically,
permission
yeah.
from her parents.
Practically, what does that mean, right? Here is a
Yeah.
person who is an adult, who has agency, who has the right and should be able to exercise it. But just that one clause, through that one clause, the husband or her in-laws were able to create, you know, issues.
ambiguity there. That
Yeah, absolutely.
Who are these elders? Who constitutes as an elder? How
Exactly.
many should there be?
What should this permission look like? Should be written? Like, you know, how will this work?
Yeah.
So I mean, there are times when these conditions kind of take away from the right.
And also sort of leave you to the mercy of whoever is presiding your case. If you get like someone who's sympathetic to your cause or who thinks that you've been wrong, so obviously then you might get better support, but it's just like a whole lot of trek for the woman.
Yeah.
She has to go to court, she has to
Yeah.
give evidence, she has to prove it. Similarly, there is another way for a woman to exit the marriage, even if she doesn't have delegated right to divorce, she can take a khula,
Yeah.
Yes. Which is also fairly complicated.
which is also fairly complicated and also, but in the delegated right to divorce, she just has to go to the union council and file for divorce like a man does.
Yeah.
But in a khula, she actually has to go to family
Court.
she
Yeah.
has to give evidence that
Actually, the evidence, I think, requirement has been taken away. Initially,
Okay.
it was there. Like, the
Okay.
woman had to show a valid reason for why she was leaving the marriage. I mean, that makes no sense.
And also
right?
valid, like what is
What is
valid?
valid?
what
Right.
is valid,
Exactly.
you know?
So now, because through various amendments, I mean, which are obviously all working in favor of the woman, now she can actually. So khula is actually divorce through a judicial process.
Right.
She has to go to court. She has to apply. The husband is called, whatever, and then it gets organized in like 3
But then
months
she
or
has
whatever.
to give back all the bridal gifts, I think.
Yes,
And then,
because
I think
then
it's
that's
just
where
with
there's some
meher.
Islamic law.
Just
kind of-
meher.
Just meher.
Meher,
And
okay.
even with that, there has now been another amendment in the law which says that she only has to return half of what was paid to her at the time of marriage.
Yes, because a lot of times meher, they put it down, but you
And
never
they say it's
actually
deferred.
get it.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So if the nikah nama says that the meher is deferred and actually nothing has been paid at the time of marriage, I mean, I think you stand a good chance of laying claim to your meher.
but it's still a very long process
Process,
for
yeah.
the woman, and giving her the delegated right to divorce would make things simpler for her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That doesn't necessarily mean that the marriage will end in divorce.
course not.
Yeah.
Yes, and this
but
is
that's
some-
also like a social taboo that
Yeah.
people don't want to talk about this at the
Yeah.
time of the nikah. But it's a
Yeah.
happy occasion. Why are you thinking about bad times?
Yeah.
Oh, that is a bad omen,
Yeah.
and you're being so negative.
Negative. And a lot of
It's just
people also...
safeguarding yourself.
Yes, exactly. And because
Exactly.
this is a legal document. Like you said, this is not
Yeah.
a sacrament. It's not a kind of a spiritual ceremony.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a legal document. And
You see,
there's
even
so many
the-
clauses in there.
Exactly. If you look at the requirements of a valid nikah, it reads like you're entering into a contract. There has to be offer. There has to be an acceptance, which is called ijab and kabul.
Okay.
It has to happen in one sitting. There has to be witnesses. the parties have to be of sound mind. They have to have informed consent. There should be no coercion, no duress, no intimidation of any kind. And the meher has to be decided. So, I mean, if you look at these requirements, you know, separately even, these are the requirements of a valid contract, which is exactly what you're entering into.
Yeah.
You
so
know?
you said informed consent. What is that?
Informed consent means that both parties have to know exactly what they're getting into.
Right.
So, I mean, if there's any conditions being put in, any rights being given, any rights being taken away, whatever it is, both parties have to be able to say, well, we've read this document, we know what's in it, and we're consenting to it without any coercion or any zabardasti or any duress on anybody's part.
And that we've actually read the document, because I think
that's the really crucial part.
Yeah. Because, you know, mostly like you're so under pressure and everyone's just like, sign
it 6 times.
And this is like the most important document that I think a woman signs in her entire lifetime. She doesn't even decide the conditions, but she's not even informed of the conditions, you know, before she signs it. This is something that they did stress about during the intervention, that the nikah registrar, like when they say na ke kabool hai, but they should read out all the terms and then ask kabool hai.
So even if you're dealing with somebody who can't read, for
yes,
example.
exactly. That was one of the problems they were facing. And you're announcing it to the whole room. There are 4 witnesses who signed the nikah, but then there are 100 million people who are also there who can also stand witness that yes, he did give her delegated right to divorce or something.
We heard
like
it, he announced it.
Exactly.
The nikah registrar read it all out, or the vakil
exactly.
read it out.
So there are a lot of verbal witnesses then to your marriage.
Yeah, agreed.
Which is why I think like culturally it's thought that the nikah is the most important occasion and you should invite a lot of people to that because they're all witness to what is actually happening then.
And isn't there evidence, there's statistical evidence to show that when brides are engaging in informed consent and they are aware of what's happening in their nikah,
there's evidence that if women have more leverage in their marriage contract, they will have better preventive health care during their lifetime. They will have delayed fertility. They'll have, there's less chance of domestic violence within the household because she goes into the marriage with stronger leverage and bargaining power.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So what are the kind of things that you can put in a nikah? Like we touched upon this before, but there are a lot of different clauses.
Yeah, absolutely. You can decide what your maintenance is going to be in the sense
during
of
the marriage.
During the marriage.
Or in case of divorce.
Like alimony, because we don't really have a
concept of alimony.
No.
And child support as a given, like it is abroad, where I think legal systems are different now.
Over here, though, even if it's not in the nikah the Union Council forms an arbitration committee. If you go to them and you say that, you know, my husband and I are separating or we're divorcing for whatever reason, and he's not supporting me for the children, the Union Council does help you with that.
Oh, okay.
So even if it's not in your nikah you can go to the Union Council and seek help for your own maintenance and for the child's expenses.
So there is a legal framework that exists
outside of the nikah.
Okay,
if for some reason you need to recourse to that. And then they call the man to the arbitration council and they ask him how much he earns and he has to show evidence for that. And based on that, they set an amount then. And if he reneges for some reason, again, she can approach the Union Council and they will help her with that.
Okay, or at least that they should, because do you think in your work, have you seen that there's a bias with officials like in the Union Council or with nikah registrars?
Not,
you know, it's like, oh, this is a family matter, it's a private thing.
Not once they've actually divorced or separated. They will help you within legal reason. They will help you as much as you want. If a woman comes to them to seek divorce, that, you know, like my husband is not giving me a divorce, what should I do, or he is doing this, then they will be like, this is a personal matter, you should decide it in the house. They might call the parents and they say like, you know,
like an arbitration council, is that what they do?
No, this is like not for a divorce. They don't do an arbitration council. Once the divorce is finalized and if she asks for maintenance for herself, for the children, for that they set up an arbitration council.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So there's a space where you can then negotiate how you're going to.
If you don't have any terms set in the nikah, if you do have terms set in the nikah, automatically, legally, she is entitled to that.
That's the legal document that you just whip out and you well, here we go, we have a plan here, and let us proceed according to
and then
this
she can also use that as leverage that if you don't pay me, then I can take you to court because I have this written down.
And the courts generally are more inclined towards safeguarding the rights of women.
Okay,
I mean, so you know, in terms of custody, they're more inclined to award custody to the woman. In terms of child support, the courts are really quite strict in terms of, you know, that the husband has to step up. This is his responsibility and he has to sort it out. So, I mean, you know, the legal system,
so I mean,
it takes time.
The government of Punjab and the legal system is really trying to sort of introduce, and they have introduced a package of reforms which are very gender friendly.
Okay, that's really
but
cool.
I don't think there's a lot of awareness about these things with the families, because you know the nikah registrar, even though he's a government official, there's only so much that he can do. If the families don't ask for things, or if they say so.
But I'm going to interrupt you here because we're going to take a very quick break and then come back to talk more in detail about this sort of two-pronged approach to marriage. So stay with us. Fascinating. Hi, welcome back to the coffee table. We're talking to Hooria, Hayat Khan and Hana Zahir about nikah namas and what you should be knowing about it. I'm having a lot of fun, even though I signed my nikah nama many years ago. But I'm just like, oh, thank God, mine was okay.
You're learning new things about it.
I know. So, Hooria, we've been talking a lot about the clauses in our nikah namas and how there's a lot of space for women to put safeguards in that will just empower them going into this very new relationship.
Absolutely.
But men should not be worried, should they? Because I don't want, because you know, I just want to kind of...
That three women are sitting and talking.
You know, men should be worried.
I was like, for the dudes watching, there's no need to panic here.
No, there's absolutely no need to panic.
Yes.
What is there to panic about? You are just as entitled to put in conditions that you feel will safeguard your rights.
Also, I mean, like, as we were talking about before, the courts don't take the nikah nama can't take away your legal rights.
Exactly.
Your rights to see your children, your rights to meet your children. So even if a woman puts in that after divorce, he can never see the children, no court will ever uphold that.
Oh, so if you put in clauses in the nikah nama which go against your legal rights,
they won't stand.
Oh.
You see, the law is pretty clear. If there is a right which is being guaranteed by law, then effectively that right can be curtailed, but it can't be terminated.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? So the husband, let's say, has an unfettered right to pronounce talaq or whatever, right? And there is a clause in the nikah nama asking the woman if she wants to put any conditions on it. She can. It can be curtailed, but it can't be taken away. Just like that, if a woman puts in the nikah nama, oh, I never want maintenance, or I never want maintenance for my children, that's a legal right. It can't be taken away. Like there was, I think, an example, I don't know if we've discussed it, but there was a nikah nama where one of the special conditions were that the woman can't go for a khula.
Oh.
And the courts were like, no, that's her right. That can't be taken away
from her.
So you can't obviously put in things which go against the spirit of whatever it is that you're trying to do, right?
Oh, exactly. Even if in a sort of moment of romance or whatever, folly, you put something down in your nikah nama, you can still go to a court and be like, sorry, can I still have it?
No, I mean, if it is a legal right, you will be given that right regardless. And the really interesting thing is that because it's a contract, you can take out things and put in things later.
You can?
So if I don't have the delegated right, but I negotiate it later with my husband, I can always have it added in.
Really?
I mean, I'll have to drop a separate document, it'll get attached, it'll have to be re-registered at the council or whatever, but I can.
Oh, I did not know that.
So I can vary provisions within the nikah nama.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's a good time to put in whatever you want.
So it's not like a one-time only thing.
Not at all, of course not.
Oh, see, this is when you look at it in a legal way,
it's definitely there's a lot of space for women there. But I think we keep talking about the man and the woman, but in our country's case, de facto, the parents or the families decide what the terms are. So I think there generally needs to be a general level of awareness about these conditions because you need support from your families before you can actually take this sort of a step.
And I think that the project has also looked at their effect on families and why an intervention with families is really important.
We haven't looked at the... So we want to do a project on that. We're looking for funding for that.
Give the money.
So we want to do an intervention with the bride. And so the government of Punjab actually did do a short intervention with female students in universities where they went and showed them a copy of the nikah nama and explained the terms to them. So we would want to do do something similar and maybe then see what impact that has in conjunction with training the nikah registrars. Because our study shows that the nikah registrars, although their information levels have increased exponentially from this training, but in the nikah namas that we've studied post the training, we don't see much of an impact in the sense that it's filled out more properly. So like the delegated right to divorce section is less likely to be crossed out, but it's not
more
likely that it will be a yes.
Yeah.
It's more likely to be a no.
And just kind of adding to what Hana is saying, so I mean, quite separately from this project, there was this training that I undertook for a think tank in Islamabad. The idea being that, you know, the nikah nama is a document that should be demystified.
Yes.
You know, I mean, there is so much kind of, it's shrouded in this kind of mystery where people are like, pata nahi, you know, isme
And
kya
I mean,
hai.
like most girls, sometimes, like when they're signing it, they're seeing it for the first time. So there also should be awareness that this is something that you should read beforehand. This is an important part of your life.
And this is where families come in, and this is where awareness in families is so crucial. That there have to be people around you who are going to make sure that you're involved in the process for
because
boys
it's
and
about
girls.
you.
Yes.
I mean, you're the person getting married and you have no say in what's being filled out. Anyway,
also, sorry, just to cut you off, but just to get on that point, it's also about knowing the opportunities that you have in a way. If you yourself decide that for some reason you don't want the delegated right to divorce, that is also okay. But you should at least know that you have the option.
And then
that's the point we're trying to make.
Actual choice that you're making. And you go into a situation with more awareness and more power.
Knowing what information is, knowledge and information is power in today's world. Sorry to keep cutting your point.
The training.
So, I mean, so as part of the training, we handed out nikah namas to everybody. Right. And so obviously there's a lot of kind of oohing and eyeing, like, you know, if you fill this out, are we actually like kind of, you know.
And they're both men and women who should
in this training. And you'd be
also very crucial.
So both of them filled out the nikah nama.
And you'd actually be surprised that the women that filled out their own nikah namas, I mean, this was just part of the training. They did not give themselves the right, the delegated right.
What?
I mean, but you see, that just shows you the cultural kind of context within which we're operating, right? The idea being ki nahi, ye baat nahi karni chahiye. I mean, this is such a terrible thing to talk about at, you know, such a joyous occasion.
It's a bad omen.
Bad omen.
It's the Voldemort of weddings. You talk about divorce. Like, must not name this.
He must not be named.
And a lot of parents also feel like, well, if we guarantee this right, then, you know, she's going to be home, you know, at the first sight of any kind of trouble, and she will not kind of, you know. So there's a lot of hesitancy. I mean, this wasn't a valid document. It was just part of it. It was a training exercise, and these girls were quite adamant कि नहीं नहीं जी ये नहीं होना चाहिए.
That's just bad. And it's
so like Hana
forward.
said, there has to be awareness not just for your public officials, but there has to be more awareness just on a kind of a, you know, on a more
societal level where these options are available. Whether you decide to avail them or not is up to you and is a personal your and your family decision. We're not in any way saying that this should happen or this should happen. We just are saying that there should be awareness of these rights. Women should know the rights that they have, that legally and religiously the rights that they have been given.
Absolutely.
But it's crucial. And then I'm just curious, but then the men who filled out the nikah nama, what were they doing? What were they putting down? Were they delegating?
They were crossing. I think there was like out of maybe like, I don't know, I think 25 male participants, I think like 3 maybe gave the right to gave the delegated right to divorce.
Or put in any clauses. You know, maintenance.
Like some people put in a clause saying, well, you know, she'll take care of my parents, or it's just very kind of generic, but you know, like your standard kind of
I
stuff.
mean, like, I don't think we should say that's so generic in today's day and age. They might be really worried that no one is going to take care of their parents.
But almost all of them gave, I mean, the 4 participants that did give the delegated right put a condition on it. So, saying according to Sharia or, you know, something like that. You know, just wanting to give the right, but also feeling like there should be some kind of restraint placed on it so that, you know, it's not used
sort of haphazardly.
Which is also interesting because it kind of it infantilizes a couple as well. Especially women.
The women,
Definitely.
Especially the women. And then
to show that they're immature and they can't take decisions for themselves.
Or they can't be responsible if they're given this kind of, you know, option
or power.
And especially if we sort of go back to the first segment, if a 17-year-old is getting married and she doesn't even have an NIC, then you're technically not even an adult.
Exactly.
And then your nikah nama can can be used like that, well, you're not even legally an adult, so then we just have to do this on your behalf.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is actually a really good argument for raising the legal age for girls as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like, there are a lot of arguments for
Drafting.
raising that.
Let's do this.
If you can't vote before 18, if you don't have a CNIC before 18, you shouldn't be marrying
you can't
before
drive
18.
before 18.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the legal age, right?
Yeah, because it speaks so much to our concept of marriage also, where it's, oh, you know, it's a cultural thing, it's a social thing, you should be doing it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not, and it's really interesting that these are, the nikah it's Islamic law.
Yeah.
So this is a religious legal document.
Yeah.
You can't even
No,
be
and
like, oh, well,
honestly,
it's not a big
we
deal.
have spoken a lot to nikah registrars, and they are not against any of these clauses.
right.
In fact, a lot of things they do support in this, but they say that as long as the families don't allow it, our hands are tied.
Yeah, but that's true, right?
That's true.
So what can we do to sort of get families on board with this? Like what kind of, like, other than of course this show,
Yeah.
everybody should be like watching and showing their prospective in-laws.
Yeah. Or their parents.
And their parents.
Absolutely the parents,
yes.
And even as individuals,
you should at least start looking at your nikah nama. I think like talks like talking openly about it, like sort of demystifies things as you're talking about, and also sort of removes the taboo from the thing. Like if we're openly talking about divorce, delegated right to divorce, what a woman can do in case of divorce, it sort of like removes the taboo from the subject.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like, oh, don't talk about this. Shush, shush, shush.
Yeah.
Why are you talking about this? You know?
And it's also, I think, really important to, I kind of keep coming back to this, is that the nikah nama and its clauses are not just about divorce, but there's so many other
things.
so much,
Exactly.
there's your freedoms inside that contract.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And we can't deny that marriages benefit men much more than they do women, which is why women need those clauses more than men
and the
do.
safeguards, exactly.
Yeah, like no one's going to tell a man who gets married that after you get married, you can't work anymore.
No, and I mean, like, it's not like the whole point shouldn't be that you put a clause in your nikah nama and then every time there's like one little fight about why is that thing dropped on the floor, you wave it out, look, I have power over you.
You signed this.
You signed this.
It's not about sort of trying to squash the other person.
It's trying to create a more equitable relationship.
Right? Because obviously every relationship has power dynamics that you have to negotiate. I mean, you know, and if you're in a better, if you have more leverage, if you are in a position to better kind of negotiate your rights, why is that a bad thing?
Exactly, and it's a matter of respect, and it's a matter of being in a partnership, not in like a
subservient relationship.
So, like one nikah registrar at one of the trainings mentioned to us that Hazur Sallam or one of the used to say that you should put on the man's right to divorce, you should put a financial condition so that he thinks before he speaks. That's just like as a precaution, as a sort of thing, so that he doesn't, like in a moment of anger, sort of strike.
Which happens a lot
which
here.
happens a lot. But if there's a huge, heavy penalty, so a lot of nikah registrars actually recommend that there should be a penalty on the man divorcing the woman, so that he doesn't do it in a moment of anger, but that there's an actual reason behind
which
it.
is again a very sensible thing to do.
So the nikah nama is a very practical document,
and it should be treated
like
as
such.
Absolutely. On this note of practicality, thank you so much, both of you, for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
So informative and
I
so
hope so.
important. Really, and you know, this sort of renegotiating later on.
That is a very important point. Mina and I are going to do that right now.
Really? But I'm
you
sure
know my number.
Exactly. No, we have a lawyer. You can call her. Thank you guys for watching. This has been a most informative and wonderful conversation. If you've learned anything from this, do share this. Show it to your friends. Show it to your parents. Show it to your sas and susar. You know, everybody's getting married at some point, and we should all go into our marriages, you know, with the hope and that
your nikah nama.
Exactly. Go back and read it. And we should all go into a marriage with positivity and with equality, and you know, just a hope for, you know, a good life ahead. So thank you guys for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time on the coffee table. Bye now.